A ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, a ton of news about stimulus payments, a ton of news is here for you on stimulus checks. Joe Biden can do something about this. First of all, let's get into the most important news. It's that Social Security benefits, no matter what, play a major role for your retirement and for the older Americans especially. Now, there could be big changes on the horizon. Social Security is facing a shortfall. A shortfall that could be catastrophic, that is. The program is paying out more in benefits than it's receiving from taxes. If lawmakers don't find a solution soon, things could get nasty. There are several proposals on the table. Social Security benefits are funded primarily through payroll taxes. Workers pay into the program now, and the most of the money is paid out to the retirees. So let's not forget about that right now though. These taxes are not even enough to pay out benefits in full. Just to cover Social Security, it has been dipping into its trust funds.
We'll have to start thinking about, at least, the looming debt limit deadline. Democrats' message? Political brinksmanship could drive up costs for ordinary households. A recent analysis by the center-left think tank Third Way estimated that an actual default could result in the loss of 3 million jobs, a $20,000 drop in the average retirement savings, and a $130,000 increase in the cost of a mortgage. And Republicans argue this is all fear-mongering. House Budget Committee Chairman Jody Arrington tweeted, Democrats and Republicans must seize this opportunity to rein in unsustainable spending and reorient the nation's fiscal trajectory before it is too late. Now, top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell was confident yesterday that the country would not face a financial crisis.
In the end, I think the important thing to remember is that America must never default on its debt. It never has and never will. But we'll end up in some kind of negotiation with the administration over what.
So both Democratic and Republican lawmakers, everybody, are negotiating on Americans receiving universal basic income payments. This is some good news. It has been announced up to $18,000 may be claimed by several people that are experiencing financial difficulties. So if you qualify for this extra stimulus check, be sure to watch this entire video because you definitely don't want to miss out on it. So the past round stimulus checks have been given to people, and more and more Americans are feeling the need for universal basic income. But many lawmakers in certain states and cities are getting used to this idea. Universal basic income is a set of recurring payments that individuals get from the government. These can be paid out every month, several times a year, or just once annually. Now, this is an idea that entrepreneur Andrew Yang, who recently left the Democratic Party, centered his 2020 presidential campaign around. Now, the good news is that states across the country are beginning to implement their own relief plans that include sending out state relief payments. For a while now, Alaska has been giving its citizens checks under the Alaska Permanent Fund. The fund, which has been around since 1982, was designed to provide state residents, citizens, with a portion of state oil revenues. The Sovereign Wealth Fund pays out annual dividends to eligible citizens. To qualify, you must be an Alaska resident for at least a year, and you're not eligible for this if you've been convicted. Last year's payment went out to 643,000 citizens in Alaska. That totaled around $1,200 per person. The highest payout occurred in 2008 when the payment was around $2,000. Now more money is headed into the pockets of thousands of people who live in Chicago. The Chicago City Council yesterday approved a multi-million-dollar budget, which includes hundreds of dollars for thousands of households in the Windy City. This makes it the largest basic income pilot program in the United States. To qualify, individuals must earn less than $35,000 per year. Participants will be chosen by random. That means you can't apply yourself. Now, the money for this plan is provided under Biden's American Rescue Plan. The passage comes a day after LA announced its program to help thousands of families in the city. The Chicago program is meant to relieve the financial burden on families affected by the crisis. Hundreds of thousands of people in Chicago lost their jobs during the first 6 months of the crisis, and about 18% of people living in Chicago are below the federal poverty line. The mayor told people on Twitter that, growing up, I knew what it felt like to live check to check. When you're in need, every bit of income helps. I definitely believe that more cities across the country should do the same thing and help out American people with more stimulus payments. If you guys agree with that, tell me in the comments down below. We have a ton of good news about the fourth stimulus checks that I want you to know, so continue watching this video. You definitely don't want to miss out on it. Because the good news is that President Biden is ready for more stimulus payments. President Biden is looking at different options now. He's going to forgive most or all federal student loan debt. It's a move that would thrill some of Biden's most loyal supporters and financially strap student payments. Now, during a recent White House meeting with more lawmakers, the move could affect more than 43 million borrowers, who could hold more than $1.6 trillion in federal student debt, the second largest debt held by Americans behind mortgages. Earlier this month, the White House said it is extending a crisis-era pause on federal student loan payments through August 31st.
Law was supposed to go into effect just weeks from now in May, but companies big and small raised concerns and said, we need more time. So lawmakers just yesterday decided to delay the law by 6 months. They also changed the rule to give businesses 30 days to fix any violations before they face fines. Christian Sutherland Wong now, he's the CEO of Glassdoor, a website where employees leave anonymous reviews about their company. Christian, how big of an impact could this have on salary equality?
Yeah, what we've seen at Glassdoor as the leading site for workplace transparency is that when companies are being transparent, it drives pay equity. So when companies hold back, like they are right now in New York, it's going to lead to continued pay inequity where women get paid less.
So the federal government is finally issuing cash bonus stimulus payments. A new stimulus relief package could provide hundreds of thousands of Americans with up to $600 stimulus aid. Here's your daily news report, everybody, and Ford Stimulus Check Update.
You invested in America. In fact, you passed the biggest investment of rebuilding the nation in history. Now, it's true we got some Republicans, friends, to help on the Infrastructure Act. But we're talking how many in the House? 12, 13, 14 or something, whatever it was? 13. I mean, come on.
So stimulus checks worth up to $600 will be issued to workers in certain U.S. industries in the coming months. The money comes from $700 million in federal relief funds that aim to pay back eligible workers for expenses tied to the crisis. The U.S. Department of Agriculture set aside the funds to compensate workers who took on unexpected costs, including purchasing their own crisis protective gear and taking unpaid leave. A deadline for organizations to apply to distribute the funds is looming, which will bring workers one step closer to getting the cash. Workers who helped keep Americans fed during this time may be eligible for money through the Farm and Food Workers Relief Grant. Around $665 million was set aside for farmers and meat packers who paid out of pocket to prepare for, prevent exposure to, and respond to the crisis. According to USDA, expenses could include money paid for personal crisis protective equipment and childcare. The grant money will be given to state agencies and nonprofit organizations that offer services in industries.
I was happy for them, don't get me wrong. But have you noticed that every new bridge, every trench dug to put in to take out lead pipes, every trench dug, there's a Republican standing there saying, this is a great thing. Wonderful.
The USDA announced a deadline extension in January, which gives the entities until March 10th to apply. Americans who worked in grocery stores as the crisis continued in the United States can also see payments. The USDA set aside $20 million to support grocery store employees as part of the grant program. Though the amount they could see remains unclear,